Well, shalom. Thanks for joining me. I'm almost done with Matthew chapter 7. We are in the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount is Jesus teaching his disciples how to follow him, how to live out the ethics of the kingdom. And it is centered around Matthew chapter 5, verse 20, where Jesus said, "Your righteousness must exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees." And basically, what Jesus is saying is your righteousness has to come from the heart, not from just your external obedience to rules and regulations, which is what the Pharisees were good at doing. And so, here in this chapter, as he's finishing up his last few words of the Sermon on the Mount, he is in chapter 7. I'm in verse 24. And this is where Jesus makes this statement. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. The difference is this: if you're a person who listens to the words of Jesus and then you follow them, you put them into action. Jesus describes you as a person who is building a house on bedrock, which means that when the troubles and the trials and the hardships of life come, that house will not fall, it will stand. You are that house if you hear the words and you are a doer of the words of Jesus. James chapter 1, verse 22 to 25 said, "Be ye a doer of the word and not just a hearer only." Hearing the word of God implies acceptance and obedience. In Romans chapter 10, the Apostle Paul said, hearing comes by the word of God. Hearing comes through faith, and that comes by hearing the word of God. Faith and trust means I'm going to hear the word and I'm going to put it into action. I'm going to obey it. I'm going to do what it says. Jesus describes the person who hears the word but doesn't do it, doesn't live it. Oh, he's got a house. But when the hardships and the trials of life comes, that house of cards falls down because he doesn't have any foundation. To be a real follower of Christ, you have to be obedient to his word. You have to not just know and hear his word, you have to put it into practice in your daily life. And then you'll have the kind of life that can withstand the hardships and the trials of everyday life. Now, to finish it up, here in this last few verses, Jesus finished teaching, and it says here the crowd was astonished. They were amazed at his teaching because it says he taught as one who had authority, power, competency, not as their teachers of the law. They were teaching because they were just quoting what other people said. Jesus was teaching because he himself is the Word of God. So there's where his authority came from. So the Sermon on the Mount teaches the ethics of kingdom living. It teaches that our righteousness must exceed the righteousness of the Pharisees and scribes because our relationship with Jesus must be genuine and from the heart and not superficial and shallow and just for show. So what is your relationship to Jesus? Are you ready for the real thing?